Okay, good morning, everybody. As we go to the chitas of today, we have a long chitas holding on the story of Yaakov, and now he wants to leave Lavan. We're holding on chapter 30, verse number 28. So Lavan said, "Nakava schorcha alai ve'tena." Specify your payment due for me, and I will pay you. Rashi says, "Nakva." It comes from the word, English translated, Parash Agarecha, specify your wages. He said, you know how I toiled for you, worked for you, and how your flock was with me. Rashi says, and you know your flock was with me, how small was the sum, how small the sum was when I came to you, and how large it is right now. So you know what you have gained. There was a little before I arrived. And it became, it blossomed, increased substantially. And God blessed you because of me. Now, and now when I need to do for my own house. Ladagli means for my foot, means with my foot, on the account of my coming. The divine blessing has come to you. The word regel is similar to people follow you. Bidaglecha, in your feet. Follow you doesn't mean the feet, actual feet. For the sake of my household, for the need of my household. At present, only my sons are providing for my needs. And I too must work with them to assist them, because everything that I do is for you. So my household is living off of my kids. And it needs to not be that way. I need to support my own household. He said, what will I give you? I don't want anything from you. If you do for me this, I'll continue to pasture your flock. Pass through your flock today. Go and take away every white speckled. Take away every white speckled or white blotched he-goat, as well as every solid auburn lamb. And those that are every white speckled goat, white blotched goat, the white speckled goat, and the sheep and goats that bear from now on with markings and colorings of those. You'll say those you segregate will be my payment. Rashi says, Nakud means speckled with fine spots. Talui means patches. Chaim means brownish color, close to red. No French. In the Mishnah language uses similar words. It's sold as dark red. And that will be my payment. Now she says, from now on, those that are born speckled and blotched amongst the goats and auburn amongst the sheep will be mine. And for those that are for now that are there now, separate them and put them in charge of your sons, so that you not tell me later about any such animals born from now on that they belong to the original flock. So we'll separate all the spotted. You'll take them all away. And from now on, any spotted will come mine. And so you can't, right? And that will make it clear. And the females from now on, that bear offsprings, that will be my flock. What will happen from now on? So from the time in the future, if you ever suspect me of having appropriated any of your flock, my integrity will testify on behalf regarding my payment, because it's clear that those that are going to become speckled will be mine. If you find any unspeckled, clear flock in between your sheep, they will be yours. It's today called in England Jacob's sheep. You can Google it, called Jacob's sheep. They call Jacob's sheep because they have spots on them. big black spots on them. So Rashi says, if you suspect me for taking anything of yours, my righteousness will testify for me. For my integrity will come and testify before you about my wages, that you will find on the only speckled and black goats on my herd. As for anything that you find amongst them that is not speckled or black or blotched or burned amongst my sheep, you may be certain that I've stolen it. So it's very clear, we cannot hide anything. My love said, Hein loy yikad v'recha. Excellent, beautiful. Kabbalas advarim, it's an expression of agreement. Halavai, I wish that you would really want only this. How many sheep are you going to get that are going to be speckled? So they removed that day all those spotted goats. And all the sheep and all the goats that had specks in them. Took all those sheep and he put it in the hands of his sons. So loving that day, he took away all the he goats. Anything that had white in it, meaning anything that had any white marking in it, he put it in the charge of his sons. And he separated himself a 3-day journey between Yaakov and his sons. Yaakov saying Lavan and the son. So Yaakov continued to pasture his father-in-law's sheep, the leftovers. Now he says, not only that, and the fathers ben, they were actually the inferior amongst them. The sick, the sterile ones, the only remnants. Lavan made sure to give him flock that wouldn't have any future, seemingly. Yaakov then took to himself fresh aspen sticks. And he took hazel sticks, chestnut sticks. He peeled the white stripes in them by exposing the underlying white layers of the sticks. Now she says, this is kind of a tree whose name Levena, as you find on the oaks and livna. I say it's a tree that's called in Old French an aspen tree, which is whitish. Kishuratov, he took it when it was moist. Luz, he also took the sticks of hazel, a tree which is small nuts grow. A caldera in French. She lived in France. Armor and chestnuts, a chastiner in French, no French. And plutze stripes, he made several peelings which made the wood streaked. Machshavas halavan, revealing the white of the sticks. When he peeled each of them, the white layer became visible and exposed in the place where they were peeled. So he created this whole illusion of stripes and dots. He then displayed these sticks when he peeled, placed them in the water running through the throw. He put them all in where the sheep would come to drink. He faced it all before to the sheep. And they thus made it the very lishtais when they came to drink. So they had this vision in their minds. Again, I'm not a farmer, how this works. So Rashi says, Uncle is translated, it's an expression or a make. This happened to be a miracle, as Rashi is going to say soon. Inserting the sticking there are many expressions. The Talmud, he stuck in dots and he moved. He something into it. But ahata means he's running stream of water. The pool's made in the ground where the flocks came to drink. Where the flocks came, meaning into the streams, where the flocks would come to drink. There he inserted the sticks facing the animals. So they were stimulated. The female animal would see the sticks and be startled by them and recoil, whereupon the male would mate with her, and she would give birth to young similar to the appearance of the rod. That's what he did. Rabbi Yeshua says differently. The water became semen in their innards, and they would not need the male in order to conceive. So this was some miraculous thing, and that's what the Yemen v'Yachmena, they would be in the heat. The word containing the characteristics of both male, the Yud is the male, and the female is Na. So Vayach, it would be Vayachm, Vayach would be the masculine, Mena would be the feminine, and therefore it was a miraculous thing. The Eibishter made a miracle through this action. And that's why in Kabbalah this action was a tefillin. That's why you put on tefillin. I don't know how it works exactly. That's the stripes that you put in your hand. And he created this whole concept. And the Eibishter, God made a miracle. And all these sheep were having children without even having a relationship. And then the animals made it at the side of the sticks, and the young the animals produced were all white ankle ringled and white speckled and white blotched. So that's what happened. The side of the sticks. Akudim means they marked the place where they were bound. Akudim, the ankles and the footage of the hind legs. Verse 40, so Yaakov separated all his sheep. Then he didn't have the sticks anymore. He faced the animals one to the other. And he had his sheep face all the urban sheep among Lavan flock that he produced. He made himself separate herds for this purpose, and he let them mingle for the rest of Laban's flock. Rashi says those born ankled, ring, and speckled he separated and set apart from themselves and made each type into individual herds. He then led ankle ring in front of the ordinary flock, so the face of the ordinary flock that followed them would gaze at them. That is what is meant, and it says he had the flock face the ankle ring sheep, that the faces of the flocks were directed towards the ankle ring ones, of the urban ones that he found amongst Lavan, and he continued to create children that would have these rings. And this is the meaning as I explained above. Moreover, whatever the stronger, earlier bearing females, animals, were in heat, Yaakov had placed the sticks in the current of water to full view of the animals, so they would stimulate by the means of the sticks. Its meaning is the Onkelos translates in the early bearing, but I have no evidence in scripture to prove this. Menachem Sadik, however, classifies the word as achitophel amongst the conspirators, Bakshadim. And the conspirators were strong, meaning those sheep that band together to hurry their pregnancies. That was another miracle. I looked it up. Goats don't have a time. They can constantly have children. That's why it multiplied very quickly, because they as long as the male and female are there, they can have children one after the other. And he did not place them in the water when the weaker later bearing animals were in heat. Thus the weaker late born offsprings became Lavans, and the healthier early born offsprings became Yaakov. So an expression of coming late, the Onkelos translated by Galakishes, but the tarrying. But Menachem and Sur classifies the word the fine robes of cloaks, atofes, having the meaning of wrapping oneself in a garment. In other words, these sheep wrapped themselves in their skin of fur, and had no desire to warm to the males. And this man became very wealthy. And he had an unbelievable amount of sheep. And therefore he took a sheep, he sold it. As the Jacob sheep, he sold many sheep. And he became a wealthy person. Now she says, he had bondsmen, camels, and donkeys. Now says, unlike the usual meaning of rabbis, many here the word means the flock were fruitful and prolific than other flock. His sheep were pashut blessed. He would sell the flock for a high price because these were expensive. Everybody wanted to buy it, and he'd buy himself whatever he needed. Chapter 31, verse number 1. Vayishma divrei Lavan. So now Jacob then heard what was said to Lavan's sons. Laban, the sons of Lavan, were saying, Lakach Yaakov, look what's happening over here. Yaakov is seemingly taking everything that Avinu. He's becoming wealthy. everything from our father. Mashel Avinu Asas Koladavi. First, he's taking everything that belongs to us. He's taking it, it's becoming his, and he is taking. It's all on the back of our father. She says he means he masters. He gathered. Yaakov is playing Lavan, then suddenly Yaakov, he observed Lavan. So his father didn't look at him as he looked at him before. Because now he got jealous of him. Becoming as wealthy as him. Yaakov, so God says to Yaakov, it's time to go home. Go to your father's home, to your birthplace. And I am with you. She says, I will be with you, but as long as you associate with impure love, and it's impossible in my divine presence to rest upon you. So it's enough is enough. You've been in 22 years. It's time you go home. Yaakov called, he summoned Rachel and Leah. Asada to the field. He didn't want to talk to them at home. The house was bugged. El Tzainai to his flock. Now she says, over here you'll see that he always calls Rachel for Leah. For Rachel was his principal wife. And for whose sake Yaakov met Lavan, that was his whole journey. Even Leah's descendants acknowledges. For Boaz, in the judicial course of the tribe of Yehuda, Leah's son said, like Rachel and like Leah. So therefore you see that even ultimately all generations agreed that Rachel Leah, that Rachel was Yaakov's main wife. That was his focus, and everything that happened after came because of her, who both built the house of Israel, mentioning Rachel before Leah. And he said to them, I see that your father's face, your father's face is not like me, he does not looking at me the same. But the reality is the God of my father has been with me. So it's not because of anything of your father. Everything is because of the Eibishter, God. You know that I served your father with all my heart, with all my power. But your father deceived me. As Maskarta said, he tricked me 10 times already. Kept on lying to me. He's going to pay me this, he's going to pay me that. Never paid me. The only thing God made sure that he doesn't hurt me. Aseres Meinim means refers to at least 10 times. Meinim to turn the total sum of an amount, which is groups of 10. It's a minion. That's a minion. We thus arrived. The Laban changed his conditions 100 times. Aseres Meinim, 10 times 10. So with the Laban, every deal I made with him, he always reneged on his deals. In Nekudim, if he said your payment will be speckled ones, so all the sheep had speckled. So he changed it. In Kudim, if he said no, you're paying with ankle wrinkles, so he kept on changing because he kept on seeing what's happening over here. So he kept on going backwards and forwards. It's all God. God redeemed your father's livestock and he gave it to me. And it happened as I looked. That's why Rashi said this all was a miracle. That I looked during the mating of the season. And I uplifted my eyes. And I saw in a dream. I saw how the speckles are going on the sheep. They're becoming speckled on their own. The brudim, they are all getting ankle rings and speckles and belted. Belt with a belt of a ring. Now she says, and the bucks, although Laban had separated all of them so that the flocks did not conceive, he took away all the males. Young similar to them, the angel would bring them from the herd and he placed them in charge of Laban's sons. So this was a miracle. He took away all the male animals that I had, and God brought him over. Uberudim, the white belted, it means azunkelis, translated as a pizza opened, in old French, streaked, a white strip surrounded its body with spots. open and connected from one end to the other end, but I cannot provide evidence as explained this verse. Verse 11. The angel of God said to me, in a dream. Yaakov, he said to me, Yaakov, he called my name. And I said, here am I. He said, uplift your eyes. And see all that the bucks mounted, that the she goats are ankle rings. So see that everything that's happening is happening midei shamayim. It's all happening because what we're doing, we're creating all these sheep that's going to be speckled and white belted. For why are we doing this? Because we see from above everything that Lavan is doing. He's trying every way to take away your pay. So therefore, that's why we are the angels that have been sent to change the reality. Verse 13, El base Kel. The angel that spoke to me in God's name, saying, I am God of Bethel. I'm Bethel with base Kel, which you went to made a matzeva. Which you consecrated there a monument. You have an obligation. 22 years ago, you made a matzeva. You never brought a sacrifice. I should have died to Shom Neder. You made a vow that you're gonna bring a sacrifice. It's time to go back to Bethel. Kum seim and it's time to go back and do your neder, do your vow that you made 22 years ago, and you're gonna bring a sacrifice. It's time to go back. V'shuva es malatecha, go back to Eretz Yisrael. Now she says, this is the kale, base kale. The hay is a ha kale. Regard is being redundant, but it's usual in the first to say it that way. Ha'aretz Canaan. Mashachta sham, where you anointed. The word mashachta is an expression of raising to eminence. And as when a person is anointed as a king. Similarly, when you poured oil on the top of the monument, so that it be consecrated as an altar. So you created this altar, never brought a sacrifice. So now you have to finish your job. Ashnadaita, you must fulfill what you said in this stone. Will become a house of God, signifying that you're gonna do a sacrifice. You didn't do the sacrifice then because you didn't have any money. You didn't have any sheep. You had nothing. But now, Baruch Hashem, you have sheep. It's time to take your flock and go back there. Atan Rachel v'Leah. So Rachel and Leah responded, they said to him, do we have a share, inheritance in our father's household? Now we have nothing. Our father has sons. We're nothing to him. Why should we, Rashi says, why should we oppose your return? What do we have over here? Are we hoping at all to inherit anything of our father's possession along his sons? We're nothing. So therefore, we can go. We not only nothing, we're considered like strangers by him. We're like sheep to him. He sold us. Sold us to you. We married you because you worked for us. And he spent our wage money on himself. So here he sold us to you, and you worked for us at everything he got. Why are we considered to him as strangers, even at the time when people usually give a dowry to their daughter? That's the normal custom. They don't marry the daughter, don't sell the daughters. They give actually a dowry to the guy who's marrying them at the time of their marriage. He acted with us as strangers, for he sold us to you, as we worked for him for 14 years to marry us, and simply gave us to you as a payment for your work. That's kaspenu. For you withheld the full payment of the additional 6 years, right? So the first 14 years, you made a deal. So you're stuck with that. And you worked for us. So we are his pay. That's what you got for your pay, your work. But then you're here still 6 more years, because he was there 22 years. Actually, he did 20 now with extra 2 years. The only thing that belongs to us and to our children, to the wealth that God took away from our father. And therefore now, whatever God tells you, That's what you should do. Asher's key is used with the meaning but. In other words, of our father's property, we have nothing, but only which the Holy One, blessed him, he has taken away from us. He tried to trick you 100 times. And the Eibishter outran him and gave it to you. So therefore, it belongs to you. If not that God has helped you, you wouldn't have this either. He would have left you empty-handed, as Yaakov Avinu tells Lavan in the next reading. Hitzel means he removed the similar every expression. Hatzalah, rescues. So God rescued you in this situation. If it wasn't for God, we wouldn't have been rescued. Use the scripture in connotation of separation, for that the rescue removes the rescued from the evil or from the enemy. And that completes the Chumash for today. Okay, we're holding the fourth essay of the Kuntres Achen. We're going to continue in this Kabbalistic teaching of the concept of a mitzvah, the difference between a mitzvah and even a neshama, and the difference between learning, the doing of a mitzvah and the learning of a mitzvah. And then ultimately, the Alter Rebbe went back and said, but it's also important, the concept of learning Seder Shtalshlus, because learning these concepts, these spiritual concepts, creates Avas Hashem, and that's what we need. It creates a love to God, and the Torah says, "V'yadai Hashem." You should know God because you should awaken over your heart. Alter Rebbe now continues. Is going to get a little bit Kabbalistic over here, because we're going to go into the upper worlds again. We're going to learn something. What we learned, we know the ideas Hametzias. We're going to learn something that we know that exists, but we don't know ideas Hamos. We don't really know the actual essence of the concept. It's not like knowing a mitzvah. It's knowing a spiritual concept or upper worlds. So just like there needs to be the rectification of the lower worlds, so too there needs to be rectification of the upper worlds. Because when you have Seder Shtalshlus, as the worlds come down, there's seemingly something more physical to the world. When you say there's something more physical to the world, it means there's something more dense. When you say there's something more dense, that means that density needs to be rectified, needs to be purified, bitter. So that means in the world of Bria, there's something to be rectified. Surely in the world of Yitzira, there's something to be fixed. And for surely in the world of Asiya, there's something to be fixed. How is those things fixed? That's fixed through us. So not only is this physical world elevated through us, the upper worlds up in Kabbalah is elevated through us too. So after that, but now states and beyond, above discussion, the superior quality of the mitzvahs requiring action, as well as the study of their law, they're also essential superior to the source of the soul by virtue of their source. Thus, the love and awe experienced by the soul through the spiritual nature pales in comparison to these mitzvahs, even though they are performed with physical entities. Not only because these mitzvahs and the extraction of sparks accomplish thereby are your ultimate purpose of creation, but in essence too, they are superior to the source of the soul. Where they came from, they are superior to its source. So this is a little Kabbalistic. The truth is that the purification of the world of Bria, the world of Yitzira, and the world of Asiya, meaning of the 288 sparks of Tohu, by means of Torah, the mitzvah that man fulfills in thought, speech, and deed. So these sparks fell through the world. Tohu is higher than the world of Tikkun, the world of Atzilus. The Tohu, the world of Tohu, according to Kabbalah, the world of chaos broke, the vessels broke, and the sparks, 288 sparks. 248 sparks. These are very big sparks. We're still trying to rectify them. And they came down. They fell down to the world, ultimately in this physical world. But they traveled, they fell down from world to world. So therefore, they ultimately came down into physical reality. So therefore, where are they in the worlds? They're all in these worlds. In the world of Atzilus, Bri, Yitzira, Asiya. So they came from a very high world. They came from the world of Tayu. So they're very high. And the Neshama comes from the world of Tikkun, world of rectification. These concepts come from the world of Tayu. So their source, the source of the physical world, ultimately is higher than the Neshama in a way. Because the Neshama comes from the world of rectification, while the physical world comes from the world of Tayu. This is the explanation. The spirit to the source of the nefesh, ruch neshama, man that possesses the love and fear of God. For they derive, the neshama derives from sag, of the internal aspect of pre-mortal man. And the nefesh ruch neshama has already been corrected through the divine name Ma issued. This name from the forehead of Adam Kadmon, being a mere reflection of it, but not of his essence. Okay, we're going to get a little, okay, let's do this. So we know in Kabbalah we have Shem Ma, Shem Sag, Shem Ban. There's different names, and they are numerical values of names. So the name of Sag and Ma are two names, two of the four names that echo very numerical values, which result in the names of the four letters of God's name, Yud K Vav K. The name Havaya are spelled out. So the four letters of God's name can be spelled out four different ways. It can be spelled out basic, it's 26. And it can be spelled out 72, and it can be spelled out 63, and it can be spelled out 45. So these are, in Kabbalah, these Shem Ma, Shem Sag, Shem Ban, Shem Ab. You have all these these four different numerical numbers. When Hebrew names of letter Yud, Hey, and Vav, Hey are written out in a full Bimiluyam, the letter Vav, the numerical equivalent to the letter, the equivalent of the letters, we'll use a 63. Hey, Shem Sag. When it's written with the full complement of the letter Aleph, the numerical equivalent, the letter is 45. So it depends how you write the word. Yud K Vav K. Yud can be written Yud Yud. Hey Hey Vav Vav. The Kabbalah explains how the name Sag 63 is related to the world of Tayu, while the name Ma is related to the world of Tikkun, which is inferior to it. Alter Rebbe is thus stating here that it's the purification of the action related to a mitzvah found their source in the divine name of Sag, that derives from the eternal aspect of Adam Kadmon, the primary divine thought of creation that encompasses all subsequent stages of levels of creation. By contrast, since the soul of a Jew, of Jews derived from the world of Tikkun, the nefesh ruch neshama is of a level which is already corrected by the means of the divine name Ma. So it's already a diminish in comparison to the same side. And this name is a glimmer that derives from the forehead of Adam Kadmon. And this is what it's written, Lefnei Melech Melech, before a king ruled over the children of Israel. So you have in the Torah, we're going to soon see, by Yaakov Avinu, soon in the Pasuk, they're able to go through all the kings of Edom. And the verse states, these kings who ruled in the land of Edom before the king ruled over the children of Israel. So Al Pi Kabbalah means, what does that mean? Edom is Tayu. Esav is Tayu. Yaakov is Tikkun. Edom is Tayu, chaos. And that's why that's the ultimate rectification, is the world of Tayu. Is the world of chaos, Edom, which is Esav. Yaakov is Tikkun. Yaakov is the world of rectification. The Kabbalah understands kings as referring to Sfiris in the upper worlds of Tayu reigned before, superior to the kings who ruled over Jews. Meaning the world of Tikkun. Tayu rules higher, and Tayu ruled before, because it comes from a higher place. And therefore, it goes to a very low place. It comes Edom. And now Yaakov, the world of Tikkun, needs to come and fix this world. which is the source of their souls. So from the world of Tikkun is merely a glimmer of Adam Kadmon, while Toyu, from whence derives the exiled sparks and their purification, stem from the divine name of Sad. It's rooted in eternal levels on the Kadmon. That means, we talk about Yidden, in a way, had to rectify, you should be a light to the nations. That's the whole point. They come from such a high place that we need to work on them. We need to change the world. I know time, that's why the world struggles with us, because we're here to change them. I know time, now you'll understand why a person needs to have needs to survive on food. Why does a person need to survive on food? What are we, animals? Why would a person need to survive on a daimon sameach? Why wouldn't we be able to survive on spirituality? The verse says, man doesn't survive on food alone, but we need food. You're not going to have food, you're not going to survive. Because in the food, now you know why people, I always say this, why people fighting over food in Kiddush. Because as Moshe said, because on Shabbos, Jews are fighting over food because they see the neshama is fighting over the food. The neshama sees the sparks of godliness in the food, in that shalit. And it's vying straight towards it. And nobody's going to stop it. If you're in its way, you might get thrown over. And the human being changes the spark of food in the diamond, in the physical. Food, and he changes it. He brings out the sag. He brings out the toyu, the hidden sparks that's in that food. Since the soul derived from the will of Tikkun and incorporate divine shame of Ma, is thereby able to extract and purify the found in the organic, vegetable, and living classes. And that's why a human being needs to survive on food, because we need to elevate the sparks of food. We need to make a bracha and live through them. Having refined the sparks that are found in the organic, vegetable, and living classes, and having drawn down divine energy upon them from a lofty source of toyu, man in turn then is invigorated by them with an additional measure of spiritual vitality, not only a physical vitality, but also spiritual. Because this food comes from a very high place. This food comes from an extremely high place. It comes from toyu. However, it's not paradox that man, who's so far superior to organic vegetation and living process, should derive his sustenance from it. That's a shocking thing. Teacher Chassidus finds the answer in the verse, not on bread alone does man live, but on what comes from the forth from God's mouth does man live. It's not the physical vegetable bread alone that sustains man. It's the spark of God that's in the bread. To create a divine utterance that's found within the bread. That's the one, that's what gives it, that's what gives you the life, that's what truly gives you the life of the food. However, since man is provided with his ongoing existence by his own created divine utterances, let us make man. Why does he need the sustenance to create the word, the sustenance of vegetables or l'chayra? Like seemingly, why can't we live from the word of God in the concept of where God said, let's create man? Why can't we live from ourselves? The answer lies in the fact that the creative utterance that animate bread derives from a loftier source. That's it. It comes from the higher than your neshama. The bread that you're eating comes in a way from the world of Toyu. Then the source of the creative utterance animated man. In terms of the divine name, Sag, and the same Ma. So that's why ultimately the bread, the food you're eating, in a way, comes from a higher level from the world than the source of man itself. Furthermore, there's yet another reason why action-related mitzvahs are lofty in the soul's love of fear of God. The verse says, you cannot see my innermost dimension, my pnimius, as implied by the word panim, shall not be seen in my face. because the real essence of God cannot come down to this world. The only thing that can come down to the world is the external aspects and the hinder part of God's light, which is the weathered vestiges of the supreme wisdom. Thus, the love and awe which man connects with the supernal attributes of midas, which are in turn innermost essence of spheres, cannot draw down into the soul the innermost essence of these attributes, but merely an external aspect. The action-related mitzvah conscious drives from netzach chod yesod, the external revelatory aspects of the spheres. This lower level descends below is essential. In its essential and inner state in action-related mitzvahs, and therefore you can get more of an essence in a mitzvah than ultimately in your knowledge. Another point in which the mitzvahs require action is superior to love and awe experienced by the soul. The Alter Rebbe will now explain that since love and fear are essential spiritual by nature, they resemble a mere glimmer and not the essence of the master's own intellect, illumination, that he imparts to his disciples. In contrast, a physical seminal drop is capable of creating a child. It imparts the entire essence. So something intellect you can never give to somebody, but then you can create a child that is like you. Both like you and like a man and a woman, they come together and they create a child. They give up their essence to the child. They will never ever give again their essence to their child, but by the act of creation, because even though it's a physical act, and through a physical thing, and the rest of all your knowledge is something that's a spiritual thing, because you cannot give even your child your true intellect, but you can give your child your essence through an act. The Rebbe now goes an analogy, explain difference between love and awe, and which are spiritual, and action-related mitzvahs, which are physical. Love and awe are illumination oidus, like the illumination of intellect, while practical mitzvahs are the vessels, kalim, that give forth the essence, similar to the physical drop that gives forth the entire essence source. Verbalization, any phrase of supreme wisdom does not procreate. Imparting wisdom does not create a being ex nihilo. But a drop that comes from the vessel of Chachmeilah, like the drop that comes from the Father's mind, Yesh by Koyach HaMoiled, has in it the power of creation. Mahava Yesh Mayin, it creates something from nothing. And also flows, not only it has the power of creation, but within this power flows the wisdom, the ultimate, the wisdom, illumination with parallels by the person's capacity for wisdom, incorporated within it, within the drop that derives from the vessel of supernal wisdom, has within it, even though it's hidden, can't be revealed, but it's there. The reason is because this vessel draws within it the essence of the supreme wisdom. That's why it has everything within it. Just like this tipa, this physical droplet, has within it the entire DNA of the Father. All above refers to the drop, the rear for the vessel of his. The opposite is the case of any thought and speech that you're going to speak to your children or to your students. Every chachman, as it comes through your speech and thought, is not going to be able to carry the essence of your wisdom. With intellect to draw forth, does not possess the essence of the original. Even in intellectual conception, field of wisdom, though this referred level of contemplation, transcending even the subtle articulation scratched by letters of thought, nevertheless, this wisdom that I give to my student, to my child, is only a ray of the essence of my intellect, which is in my soul and my essence. So too, the reflection is mere garment for the very essence of my intellect. And the intellect in turn is but a reflection and garment from the essence of my soul. Thus, the soul's essence is not found within the intellect conception. Unlike the drop, the physical drop, which though physical, comprises within it the essence of the soul. Not only has the essence of the wisdom, it has the essence of my soul. This droplet, even though it's a physical droplet, gives it the essence. Therefore, can have offsprings that Avram and Yitzchak look like each other, and parents and children look like each other. And now you understand difference between the divine service of angels that come from the kiss of God, and hence the divine is like spiritual, and the Shabbat She'itzma Kalim, but the souls that come from the vessels of the spheres. So you might think that the Shamas are higher. I mean that the Malachim are higher, but they're not higher. They're actually lower. And therefore, who can come in the world and change the world is a Neshama, not a Malach. So a Malach can only do God's will. A Neshama changes the world, because a Neshama comes from the vessels of the world. So even though it's lower, it comes from the vessels, but in this vessel has everything. So it has everything within it. And therefore the vessels of Atzilus, explained, become in the Shama of the world of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. Therefore, ultimately, the intellectual love and awe comparable to the angels that issue for the spiritual kiss, which really only the external aspect of Chabad, Chochmah, Bina, and Das, in the three intellectual spheres of Bria, Yetzirah. Though it derives from the vessel of Tzidus, it's still not the degree of the essence. The reason is that the innermost interdimension of Chabad, Chochmah, Bina, Das, wisdom, understanding, analysis, and the essential nature indwelling light cannot be revealed except through the radiance of the vessels that descend below. And therefore, that a neshama that comes to the vessels, as we learned, that Avraham Avinu's chesed, he comes to the vessels of the world of Atzilus. Maybe Moshe Rabbeinu's Chochmah Atzilus, but he comes from the vessel of the world of Atzilus. That's why he said, you can find my Achayrei, you can't find my Pnimi, but you have everything. You have everything. Even though you don't have you can't reveal the essence, you have the essence. You don't have to reveal the essence. You are touching the essence. A soul, we call a malach that might come from the kiss of God doesn't come from the vessel, and therefore it's never a vessel. It can never do what a vessel can do, what a human being can do. As I gave the analogy of the drop, the steam and drop that comes from the wisdom of the Father, that in this physical drop you have everything. As the verse says, that Moshe Rabbeinu says, I want to see the essence. Maybe says you cannot see the essence. You don't need to see the essence. You have the essence. And maybe actually, if you would see the essence, you'd be totally nullified. You have the essence, and dafka, you don't see it, because you can have it without seeing it. And it'd be better if you don't see it, because I want you to have it, and even if you don't see it, you still have it. So therefore, the Alter Rebbe again explains the greatness of going out and doing a mitzvah. My friends, because with the mitzvah that you're going to do, you're going to grab the essence of God. Okay, today, my friends, is the 7th day of Kislev. The chapters of the day is, in Tillim, is 39 to chapter 43. The Rebbe said in Yemen, there are 3 schools of thought. School of thought that negates, preoccupied with materiality by pointing out the disgusting and abhorrent nature of the bodily and material things. That's the school of Musa. Talks about the negative, get away from the physical, it's terrible, it's the worst thing in the world. Then you have the school of recognition of superiority of the inner form, and the spiritual dimension, character traits, and intellectually instructs you how one may come closer to attain these. This is the school of Hakira, philosophy, greatness of philosophy over anything else. And then you have the discipline and prevalence of a form over matter. This is the school that teaches you the unique quality of the material. That's Chassidus. That's you just learned, my friend, just now. The greatness. Excuse me 1 second. It tells you, teaches you the greatness of the physical. That you to realize that the physical is great in itself. And the unique quality of form when integrated with the material. The two are to be so thoroughly infused that one cannot detect whether they're beginning or where it ends. Where does the spiritual begin? Where does the physical end? For the beginning is wedged in the end, and their end is in the beginning. For one God created them both, and for one purpose, to reveal the light of holiness and his hidden powers. That's what Abish created physical. He didn't create the physical just to destroy it. And both of them together will complete the perfection desired by the Creator. This is the school of what you have learned just today in Tanya. This is the school of teaching of the Alter Rebbe. God bless you all, my dear friends. Also, in Midshem, everybody's invited to come and learn. 10 o'clock. It's in an hour and a half. Come and learn. We'll learn some Tanya. We'll learn a Sikh of the Rebbe, at 10 a.m. I wish you all a wonderful Thanksgiving. See you all tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Be'ezrat Hashem. We'll continue the Chitas of the day. Have a wonderful and beautiful Thanksgiving. And I wish you all the